Welcome to Shadowland's Ghosts, a realm where the ordinary and the unknown coexist. I'm your host, Raven Blackwood, and I'll be guiding you through the darker corners of our world, where the fabric of reality is woven with the threads of fear and mystery. As I sit here, surrounded by the familiar comforts of my study, the warm glow of the lamp on my desk casting a golden light on the pages of the old book I've been reading, I'm reminded that even in the most mundane of settings, the shadows can whisper secrets to those who dare to listen. The trees outside my window sway gently in the breeze, their leaves rustling softly, a soothing melody that belies the darkness that lurks just beyond the edge of town. But it's not the darkness that I'm interested in, at least not directly. It's the stories, the tales of those who have ventured into the unknown and returned with scars, both physical and emotional. The stories that make you wonder if what you think you know is actually true. And that brings me to our story for today, the unseen passenger on the endless train to nowhere and the shadow that followed. A tale of a journey that was meant to be a simple commute, but turned into a descent into the very depths of terror. As you join me on this journey, I want you to keep in mind that the story you're about to hear is not mine to tell. It belongs to the one who lived it, and I'm merely the vessel through which it's being shared. So I invite you to subscribe to Shadowland's Ghosts and become a part of our little family of storytellers and listeners. And as you listen to the tale of the unseen passenger, remember, you're not just hearing a story, you're experiencing it through the eyes of the one who lived it. The rhythmic sway of the train, a cadence so familiar it becomes a lullaby, beckoning me into a sense of security as I settle into my seat. The worn cushion cradles my back, and the dim hum of the engine vibrates through the metal frame, a soothing melody that seems to lull my worries to sleep. I glance around, taking in the familiar sights of the train, the rows of seats, the luggage racks, the flickering fluorescent lights that cast an eerie glow on the faces of my fellow passengers. There's the young couple in the row ahead, holding hands and stealing glances at each other, their love still in its budding stages. The elderly woman across from me, her silver hair neatly styled, her eyes fixed on the book in her lap, her brow furrowed in concentration. And then there's the businessman, typing away on his laptop, his face a mask of focus, his eyes darting between the screen and the papers scattered around him. It's a typical commute, one I've taken countless times before. But as the train picks up speed, hurtling through the darkness of the tunnel, I start to feel a creeping sense of unease. It's a nagging feeling, one I try to brush off as mere paranoia. I glance around the train car again, this time noticing something I hadn't seen before, a seat, empty and untouched at the far end of the car. It's as if the passenger who occupied it had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a faint outline of their presence. I try to shake off the feeling, telling myself it's just my imagination playing tricks on me. But as the train emerges from the tunnel, the bright sunlight streaming in through the windows, I catch a glimpse of something that makes my heart skip a beat, a shadow, dark and foreboding, lurking just beyond the edge of my peripheral vision. I turn to look, but there's no one there. The train rumbles on, carrying us further and further into the unknown. And I'm left with the unsettling feeling that I'm not alone, that there's something on this train with me, watching me, waiting for me to make my move. As I try to shake off the feeling of unease, I find myself glancing at the empty seat at the far end of the car more and more. It's as if my eyes are drawn to it, like a magnet to steel. I start to wonder who could have occupied that seat, and where they could have gone. The elderly woman across from me looks up from her book, her eyes meeting mine, and for a moment, I feel like she's trying to tell me something. But her expression is neutral, and she quickly returns to her reading. I try to focus on my own book, but my mind keeps wandering back to the empty seat. I start to feel like I'm being watched, and the sensation is making my skin crawl. I glance around the train car again, this time noticing that the young couple is no longer holding hands. They're still looking at each other, but there's a hint of tension in their body language. The businessman is still typing away on his laptop, but his eyes keep darting towards the empty seat. As the train rumbles on, the lights in the car begin to flicker. At first, it's just a slight dimming, but soon the lights are strobing, casting eerie shadows on the faces of my fellow passengers. The elderly woman looks up from her book again, this time her eyes locked on the lights. She seems concerned, and I start to feel a sense of unease. I try to stand up to get a better look at the lights, but my legs feel heavy, as if they're rooted to the floor. The young couple is now arguing in hushed tones, their faces tense with anxiety. The businessman is staring at the empty seat, his eyes fixed on it with an unnerving intensity. Suddenly, the lights go out, plunging the train car into darkness. The only sound is the rumble of the engine and the faint whisper of the wind outside. I'm trapped in a sea of darkness, surrounded by strangers who seem to be hiding secrets. And then, I hear it, a faint whisper, a soft voice that seems to be coming from the empty seat. It's a single word, repeated over and over, each time growing louder and more urgent. Mine! I try to scream, but my voice is caught in my throat. The lights flicker back on, and I'm met with the sight of my fellow passengers staring at me, their eyes black as coal, their faces twisted into grotesque grins. The train is still moving, but I'm not sure where we're headed. All I know is that I'm trapped, surrounded by an unspeakable horror that's closing in on me. And I'm not alone. The voice in the empty seat is getting louder, more insistent. Me? I know I have to get out of there, but my legs are still heavy, still rooted to the floor. As the train rumbles on, I realize that I'm running out of time. The voice is getting closer, the whispers growing louder. I'm trapped in a living nightmare, and I'm not sure if I'll ever wake up. The train is hurtling through the darkness, carrying me further and further into the abyss. And I'm not alone. There's something on this train with me, something that's watching me, waiting for me to make my move. The lights flicker again, and I'm met with the sight of the empty seat. But this time, it's not empty. This time, there's someone sitting in it, their eyes fixed on me, their face twisted into a grotesque grin. And I know that I'm doomed. As I stare into the eyes of the figure in the empty seat, I realize that I've been blind to the true horror surrounding me. The flickering lights, the eerie whispers, and the twisted grins of my fellow passengers were just symptoms of a far more sinister presence. The voice that's been whispering mine over and over, is not just a voice, it's a claim of ownership. The figure in the empty seat is not just a person, it's a manifestation of the darkness that's been lurking within the train car all along. Its eyes seem to bore into my soul, and I feel a creeping sense of dread as I realize that I'm not just trapped on a train, I'm trapped in a living hell. The elderly woman, the young couple, and the businessman, they're all under its control, their minds hijacked by some malevolent force that's been manipulating them. The voice that's been whispering mine, is the voice of the train itself, a vessel for the darkness that's been awakened by some unknown force. As I watch, the figure in the empty seat begins to change, its body contorting and twisting until it's no longer human. Its face elongates, its eyes turning into black holes that suck in the light around them. The voice grows louder, more urgent, until it's a cacophony of terror that's screaming in my ears. The train is hurtling through the darkness, carrying me further and further into the abyss. I'm trapped, surrounded by an unspeakable horror that's closing in on me. The voice that's been whispering mine, is the voice of my own doom. I know I have to get out of there, but my legs are still heavy, still rooted to the floor. As the train rumbles on, I realize that I'm running out of time. The voice is getting closer, the whispers growing louder. I'm trapped in a living nightmare, and I'm not sure if I'll ever wake up. The train is hurtling through the darkness, carrying me further and further into the abyss. And I'm not alone. There's something on this train with me, something that's watching me, waiting for me to make my move. The lights flicker one last time, and I'm met with the sight of the figure in the empty seat. Its eyes are fixed on me, its face twisted into a grotesque grin. And I know that I'm doomed. The voice that's been whispering mine, is the last thing I hear as the darkness closes in around me. The train screeches to a halt, the sudden jolt throwing me forward. I stumble, my hands grasping for the back of the seat in front of me. The lights flicker once, twice, and then die, plunging the train car into darkness. The air is heavy with the scent of decay and rot. I strain my ears, listening for any sound, but there's only silence. The voice that's been whispering mine, is gone. I'm left with only the sound of my own ragged breathing. And then I feel it. A presence, looming over me, its eyes fixed on me with an unspeakable hunger. I try to move, but my legs are frozen in place. My heart is racing, pounding in my chest like a drum. The darkness seems to coalesce around me, taking shape as the figure from the empty seat. Its eyes glow with an otherworldly light, illuminating the twisted features of its face. The grotesque grin, is the last thing I see before it reaches out and touches my face. The world goes white. I'm consumed by a vision of the train, hurtling through the darkness, carrying me further and further into the abyss. I see the faces of the other passengers, their eyes black as coal, their skin gray and decaying. I see the conductor, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light, his smile twisted and cruel. And then I'm back in the train car, the figure looming over me. Its eyes are fixed on mine, and I know that I'm staring into the face of pure evil. The voice that's been whispering mine, is back screaming in my ears. I try to scream, but my voice is frozen in my throat. I try to move, but my body is paralyzed with fear. The figure reaches out, its hand closing around my wrist like a vice. I feel a searing pain, a burning sensation that spreads through my body like wildfire. I'm consumed by a vision of the train, hurtling through the darkness, carrying me further and further into the abyss. And then everything goes black. When I come to, I'm lying on the floor of the train car, my head throbbing with pain. The lights are back on, and the train is moving, rumbling through the darkness. The other passengers are staring at me, their eyes black as coal, their skin gray and decaying. The figure from the empty seat is gone, but I know that it's still on the train, watching me, waiting for me to make my move. The voice that's been whispering mine, is still echoing in my ears, a reminder that I'm trapped in a living nightmare, and I'm not sure if I'll ever wake up. The train rumbles on, carrying me further and further into the abyss. And I know that I'm not alone. There's something on this train with me, something that's watching me, waiting for me to make my move. As the train rumbles on, I'm trapped in a living nightmare, unable to escape the clutches of the malevolent force that's watching me. I try to stand, but my legs are weak and I stumble, grabbing onto the back of the seat for support. The other passengers stare at me, their eyes black as coal. Their skin gray and decaying, and I know that I'm among the damned. The voice that's been whispering mine, is still echoing in my ears, a reminder that I'm not alone on this train. I look around, but there's no sign of the figure from the empty seat. Yet, I know that it's still here, watching me, waiting for me to make my move. The train hurtles through the darkness, carrying me further and further into the abyss. I see the faces of the other passengers, their eyes fixed on me with an unspeakable hunger. I see the conductor, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light, his smile twisted and cruel. And then I see the sign, next stop, oblivion. The words are written in blood, and they seem to pulse with a malevolent life of their own. I know that I'm running out of time. The train slows, and I feel a sense of hope. Maybe I can escape. Maybe I can find a way off this train before it's too late. But as the doors open, a cold wind blows in, carrying with it the scent of decay and rot. I step off the train onto a platform that's shrouded in darkness. The air is thick with the stench of death, and I know that I'm in a place where the living are not welcome. The train pulls away, disappearing into the darkness, and I'm left alone. But I'm not alone for long. I hear the sound of footsteps echoing through the darkness. The figure from the empty seat emerges, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. It reaches out, its hand closing around my wrist like a vice. And then everything goes black. When I come to, I'm back on the train, sitting in the same seat, staring into the eyes of the figure from the empty seat. The voice that's been whispering mine, is still echoing in my ears. I realize that I'm trapped in a never-ending cycle of terror, doomed to ride this train forever, tormented by the malevolent force that's watching me. The train hurtles through the darkness, carrying me further and further into the abyss, and I know that I'll never escape. The last thing I see is the sign, next stop, oblivion. The words are written in blood, and they seem to pulse with a malevolent life of their own. And then everything goes black. Epilogue. I'm sitting on a bench at the train station, staring at the platform where I was last seen. It's been years since I disappeared, and no one has heard from me since. I'm just a memory now, a faint recollection of a life left behind. But I'm not alone. I see them, the other passengers from the train, standing on the platform, their eyes black as coal, their skin gray and decaying. They're waiting for something or someone. The voice that's been whispering mine, is still echoing in my ears, a reminder that I'm not free. I'm just a pawn in a game that's far from over. I look up, and I see the train, the same train that I was trapped on, pulling into the station. The conductor's eyes glow with an otherworldly light, and his smile is twisted and cruel. The doors open, and a figure steps off the train. It's me, or at least it's a version of me. I'm staring at myself, and I see the same fear, the same terror in my eyes. The figure approaches me, and I feel a sense of dread. I know that I'm staring into the face of my own damnation. The figure reaches out, and I feel its hand close around my wrist. I try to pull away, but it's too late. I'm dragged back onto the train, back into the abyss. As the doors close behind me, I see the sign, "Next stop, Oblivion." The words are written in blood, and they seem to pulse with a malevolent life of their own. And then everything goes black. The train pulls away, disappearing into the darkness, leaving behind a trail of terror, a reminder that some nightmares never end. The passengers on the platform watch as the train disappears, their eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting for the next victim to step onto the train. The voice whispers one last time, "Mine," and the sound echoes through the station, a chilling reminder that the horror is far from over. Wow, we've reached the end of this terrifying journey. I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for joining me on this thrilling ride. Your engagement, comments, and support mean the world to me, and I'm so grateful to have such an amazing community. As we close this chapter, I want to invite you to join me on many more adventures to come. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. By doing so, you'll not only be supporting the creation of more content like this, but you'll also be joining a community of like-minded individuals who share a passion for storytelling and exploration. Your subscription will help us continue to push the boundaries of what's possible and bring you even more thrilling experiences. And as a special thank you, we'll be sharing exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and early access to new projects with our loyal subscribers. So, if you're ready to embark on more journeys with us, please hit that subscribe button now. We can't wait to share what's next with you. And as a final reminder, if you're on a train and the conductor's eyes glow with an otherworldly light, just get off at the next stop. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.